In this step, let's start with creating an entity for our user class. So I've opened up the user class. We would want JPA to manage this. And the way we can tell JPA to do that is by adding an @entity annotation. So I'll say control1, import entity jakarta.persistence. That's good. So you'd see a import come in, Jakarta persistence entity. That's good. And I would want @ID. The ID field in here should be an identifier. So I'll add in @ID, control1. We want to import jakarta.persistence. That looks good. So Jakarta persistence ID is imported in, and I would want the ID value to be generated. So I'll put in @generated value. So private integer ID, we would want this ID field to be generated. Now, if I go to the log, I'm seeing an error in here. The error says syntax error in SQL statement, expected identifier. The reason we are having a problem is because user is a keyword in H2. So what I would want to do is to rename the table. So in here, I want to actually rename the entity name, and I would want to give it a name of user underscore details, and I'll save this. Enough, application should start up without any errors. If you look at the log, a connection URL to the H2 database is printed in here. I don't want to use a dynamic URL. I would rather have a static URL which is configured. So I'll open up application.properties, and in here, I would configure a static URL. Spring.dataSource.url is equal to, I'll pick up these things from here, Java H2 mem test tb, and save this. So this would be the URL at which we can access the H2 database. And now we can launch up H2 console, localhost 8080/H2-console. Make sure that the JDBC URL here matches whatever we have in here. So I'll copy paste it from here and say connect. And you can see user details table in here. So if you do select star from user details right now, you will not see any details in here. So let's quickly insert some data in there. So over here, I'd go ahead and create a data.sql. Source main resources, new file, data.sql, say finish. And over here, I can type in my queries. Insert into user underscore details. I would specify the column name order. So ID, comma, birth underscore date, comma, name. And the values would be, let's hard code a high value for the ID, 10,001. The birth date I would put as current underscore date. So this is a function in H2. And the name I would say is Ranga. Let's save this. When I save this, I see an error saying table user underscore details is not found. So the data.sql is getting executed before our tables are created in H2 database. And we want to delay that. That's why we are going to use a property, spring.jpa.defer data source -initialization is equal to true. So we want to defer the initialization of data source, and we would want to defer the execution of data SQL. So let's save this. And when you save this, you should not see any errors in the console. If you go back to H2 console and relog in, let's do a continue, connect, user details, run. Okay, I can see my details coming in here. So what I'll do now is to add in a few more users. So data.sql, insert into user details, Make sure that they have unique IDs, 1000, 10,002 and 10,003. And let's say this is Ravi and this is Satish. Let's save this. And let's refresh H2 console. Connect. Run. Okay, I see all the details that I would expect. So in this step, we got our entity ready. Now our goal is to update the user resource to talk to the database. Let's see how to do that in the subsequent steps.